Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Buttercupp at Home.
Today we have Brandy VandeWalle with Skeleton Key Arts and Antiques. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're so excited. This is so much fun.
This is fun.
We're so excited. And so I told Casey that I have a funny story I have to share first of how we even met Brandy. So our son Carter went to school with your daughter Addie back in junior high. Carter comes home and he starts talking about this new friend that he has. And everything is Addie. And he says, Mom, you would love her family. They live in a funeral home. I was like, well, that sounds creepy. Okay.
They sound like a lot of fun.
Right? And he goes, no. They don't just live there. They have a store there. And I was like, even creepier. And so he was like, no, Mom, you would love their store. And so then, he can only tell me half the story, like no more details than that. And
You're
so
expecting like funeral supply or something.
I just couldn't even imagine. Like it sounded so bizarre. And so then one day we're driving and I was like, oh my gosh, look at that cute store. And he goes, Mom, that's the place I've been telling you about. That's Addie's store. I was like, oh, because then the other thing I said, well, what is this store called? Something about skeletons. Okay. All right. This is creepy. And so then we drove past Skeleton Key Arts and Antiques. Makes so much sense. It's absolutely adorable. I was like, okay, I got to go in there. So now I love it. And he was right. I do love you guys. I love your store. And so for anybody that hasn't been in there, tell us what you carry. What do you have in there?
Everything. Mm-hmm. It feels like most days. So we are a vendor mall and we rent space to local antique and vintage dealers and local makers and artists. So we have a fairly wide variety over about 6,000 square foot.
That's amazing. And so, and you do live there.
We do live there. We bought the building 10 years ago. A couple weeks ago was 10 years that we moved in.
That's awesome.
And we live upstairs and we run a business on the first floor, which was always the plan. In fact, I laugh because we're in the old Wheelan Funeral Home in downtown Rock Island, for those of you who are local and might know what that is. It's the building we used to compare everything back to. John and I, my husband John and I, knew we wanted to do something like this. We wanted to have a business where we could live upstairs and run a business on the first floor. And he was really familiar with that building and used to say, oh, if it ever sells, I want to buy it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Until we walked through it and I was like, oh yeah, no, this would be cool. And never thinking it would ever go for sale. It had been there for 90 years. Why are they ever going to go anywhere? Yeah. And then it did go up for sale when we had a newborn baby and a 3-year-old. So
of course, that's the way it goes.
Timing.
Great time to start a business.
Excellent timing.
Yeah.
So we say that building waited for us. So we actually bought it the year the newborn started kindergarten. So
I didn't realize you had been there that long. So, well, but your baby's in high school now, right?
He's 15 now.
So when did you opened 10 years ago? Okay.
August 1st.
Okay.
Because we had a substantial amount of work to do.
Right. That was my next question.
We still have a substantial amount of work to do.
So take us back to pre-buying that building. You and John, background, both of you have art background, is that right?
Yeah. We met at Augustana. We were both art majors. Didn't actually have any classes together, but I had a good friend of mine was in a class with this older guy. He's 4 years older than me. And she kept talking about how, he knows some of the older guys we knew, that guys who would come back and still kind of party with their frat friends. And so she got talking to him and realized he knew a lot of those people. And she's like, he's really cute, and kept telling us all about him, and finally met him. And I was like, oh, she's right. He is really cute. So we were both dating other people then, and then ended up started dating later. We kept running into each other out in the district at Ribco usually.
Yeah.
So
back in the days,
spot.
yes.
It was the place to go.
Yeah.
So we've been this month is when we started. 20 years ago, we started dating. 20 years ago this month. So we got married a year later.
So got married, both of you art
Both of us were
background.
very
So
artsy.
what was that creative process like that led to Skeleton Key?
Well, it really kind of boiled down to John was doing a lot of metal sculpture in our garage and our driveway. There's not a whole lot of room, with 2.5 car garage and a 3-bedroom ranch house, so he was making it work, but we really didn't have a place to store things, to sell out of. There weren't quite the options that there are now. The farmer's market wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. The closest thing was Coal Valley had you could rent space there, but they had a waiting list so long that we gave up. So we knew, hey, I can run a business. I I can do this. And just kind of talked and talked and talked and kicked it around and looked at the building. And then, I mean, the honest to God truth is we went on vacation with friends of ours for a wedding in St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's beautiful. And our friends are doctors and, like they're living the lifestyle, right? And we're barely able to afford to go on this trip. And I'm like, you know what? We're never going to get anywhere working for other people. Let's do this. When we get back, promise me we're going to go talk to Steve Presley about that building and let's do this. And so we did. We came back, made him an offer. He accepted, went to the bank, got their okay. And then I'm like, oh crap, now we really have to do this.
Well, and so 10 years ago, I'm trying to remember, like, social media would have still been kind of new.
It was pretty new.
Yeah. So how did you get the word out that, hey, we're doing this, we're looking for vendors? How did you sell people on the idea? Because I don't even think there were really other stores like that around here at that time.
Not as many that were doing
art as well.
Yeah, I mean, so there's some vendor malls. There was
Sure.
the West Kimberly Mall.
Yep.
There was Coal Valley. But I really wanted to have pretty strict parameters in place about what we were selling. So no, there wasn't as much that way. There there have always been places like
Sure.
that around elsewhere, but not so much locally. So we opened at a very odd time because we were right as that slide was happening pretty quickly with new print media
Right.
fading and social media rising. And so I'm very very lucky that I had been on Facebook. My college friends were all from Chicago, and so we had been keeping in touch online, and I was seeing other businesses use it, and so jumped on that bandwagon pretty early. I haven't been as great about keeping up with TikTok and those things now, but we have Facebook, we have
gotta find your
Instagram.
place.
You can't do it all.
But I mean, our first couple years, I think, if you look back at our marketing budget, it was insane because we were throwing money at everything, trying to see what was working because there wasn't a clear-cut winner at that point. It was just kind of everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And, all the advice was stuff that wasn't necessarily working anymore. So really, I do think most of our growth has come from social media, but I also do think that landing when we did and when we started hampered our growth a little bit at the beginning because it was, as far as the traditional marketing, everybody's still saying, oh, run an ad in the paper. I
Right.
spent too much time listening to those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I would have been having my photography studio at the same time, and people would say the same thing. And I'm like, you're literally hoping that the right person flips
Yeah.
through and happens to see your. I mean, that is, it's so difficult. And it's incredible what social media has done
Yeah.
for businesses now. But you do use social media a lot, and now you've got your artist market
We do. Yeah.
that you do in the summertime.
it.
Yeah. And that's where you'll have outside vendors can come and set up. So I love that you do that. And you've really, I think, just kind of become a hub for artists there. And there's really not a lot of places like that around here where you can go find, I don't know. There's just something about like the people that are drawn to art. It just goes hand in hand with the vintage stuff too. And so, if you've ever been to an antique mall, you kind of go and it's different stalls. And of course, because it's different sellers, this one is going to have a bunch of records and this one's going to have a bunch of whatever. And so, what I love about your store is that you walk in and you really can't tell which is which vendor. Everything just kind of flows.
Curated really, really well.
It's a little deconstructed. I didn't want the big, 2x4 walls up. That was never part of the plan. I think John was a little surprised by that because I think that's what he had envisioned. And so instead I'm like, give me the Scotch tape. We're gonna
Yeah.
start taping out. And he didn't see it the same way I did, but he let me have my way, thankfully.
Yeah.
And it's worked for us.
Well, I think so. And because it makes it, you go in and you're just browsing in a store. You're not really like going booth to booth to booth. And I think sometimes booths can get kind of cluttered and full and you miss things. Whereas when you're kind of wide open like this, everything is just out and you can kind of see it and browse just like you would in a regular store, which makes it easy to shop.
Yeah, what I love about your business so much is one, just your family for one, is you guys are just fantastic. So, but with the like John's artwork, Like I love you can drive around Rock Island. You can just see it in people's yards all
It's
over.
kind of fun,
it's so
isn't it?
great.
It
It's
is.
so
Yeah.
it just makes me so happy. So I love that. I love that you guys went to Augie. I love that you live in Rock Island. We live in Rock Island, and that's really such a goal of what we want to communicate through this podcast and through our YouTube channel of really just highlighting this wonderful community. When we talk about Buttercupp at home, it's like not just our house, but it's about the Quad Cities and all this stuff. So how long have you guys lived in the Quad Cities and been in the Quad Cities?
I moved here in 96, fall
Okay.
of 96. And other than a couple of, summer breaks from school, I've been here ever since. I never left. John was born and raised here. So
Okay.
he'll be 49 this year. So I guess.
On the Illinois side?
yeah, he's always lived in Rock Island.
Oh, I love it. I
Yep,
love it.
I think they lived out in the country for a little while. His dad was involved in the parks department for Rock Island,
Okay.
and I think was maybe the grounds. I'm going to have the titles wrong, but like the groundskeeper at the golf course that's out in the country, out towards like Taylor Ridge.
Okay. Highland Springs.
Highland Springs.
Yes,
Yep.
Highland
So they
Springs.
lived out there when
good golf
John
course.
was really little.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's always
So
lived
did
in
he go
Rock
to
Island.
Rocky then?
He went to Rocky.
He did.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us now you're on some different like committees or boards or, what kind of other stuff do you do in Rock Island?
It's very Rock Island centric. Like, that's all I
great.
do is
Yeah.
Rock Island stuff right now. I am involved in the Curliff Loan Committee. It's a revolving loan fund to help get businesses off the ground. It's like a gap filler in funding. If you can't get enough funding from the source, then we're another funding source that you can apply to through the city. It's been kind of being revamped over the last couple of years, and so we haven't actually done a ton with it, but that is something I'm involved with. I'm involved with the Rock Island Arts Commission. So we do, like, the most recent thing we did is we just picked the sculptures we want for the rotating sculpture program. And then they have to go and like bid at this whole thing. So we might not get the ones we want, but we went through and selected the ones that we would like to see at the available locations that we have. And then the newest thing I'm involved with is the new Downtown Alliance. And that's
That's going to be good. Yes.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I'm really, really excited that I'm on this board. I was part of the steering committee and with hopes that maybe I would get to be on this board, and just got word a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So unpack that a little bit. That's great for people that obviously are local listening to this.
What kind of businesses are you looking for
Yeah,
in downtown
especially
Rock
people
Island? Like,
that-
what do you wish
yeah.
that you could see down there?
That I would like you guys in my back pocket, but so we'll see what we can do there. But if I had my way, it would be full of little mom and pop shops. I want the creatives, I want the unique, I want the different, I want the things that you're not going to go find in every other town of our size. When I want it to be a destination. People don't travel to go to a different Target. I mean, my son probably would. He kind of loves Target. But
Same here. Yes.
yeah, right. And I'd go in with him
We
happily.
always
It'd be
end up
fine.
in Target, no matter
but,
where we go, whether we want to or not. We always end up in Target.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, we travel to go see those things that are very specific to a location. That's why we go to the Galenas. That's why we go to the LeClaire's. That's why we go to the, is it St. Charles? Is that little town?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we go for. And so those are what I would love to see. Obviously, I'm one person of, a larger board. What I want doesn't necessarily amount to much of anything. But I've always looked at downtown Rock Island and been frustrated because it's got such good bones. I mean, that sounds
does.
kind of silly, but
No,
it really
does.
That is very
And
true.
I know, like, you guys traveled recently. We had some discussions while you were there that, I mean, man, it makes you really appreciate what you've got, because Rock Island really is a pretty town with the beautiful park,
river.
Yeah.
the architecture of the buildings downtown. It's got so much potential and a lot of open storefronts right now that we could bring people into.
Well, and obviously you're a visionary because where you're located, you are kind of alone a little bit, you're kind of an island. And so you've really done a good job of making yourself a destination, but you're very close to downtown. And what I always like about you too is that you play nice in the sandbox. So you do a really good job of inviting other businesses to do shop hops with you and coordinating those events. And that's a lot to put on. But I think it shows your heart for Rock Island, that it's like, hey, there are places places here. You just need to go find them. You know, we've got them.
Well, and I mean, I just think that as a small business, really your biggest obstacle is that you don't have the marketing dollars that the big boys have. You may
Right.
have the coolest things ever. You may have the best customer service ever. But if you can't get the word out in front of your customers, it doesn't matter. And so by being able to do shop hops and interact with other stores and cross promote, it just benefits us all at a very low cost. And so that's always kind of been my theory behind doing a lot of shop hops and organizing. And that's another reason I'm really excited to have this downtown organization, because I'm really hoping they'll be able to pull some of that weight. You know,
Right.
I'm just me, and I'm running a store with over 100 vendors, and I'm a mom, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
there's a lot in my life, and so I have lots of ideas, and not always the time or the money to do it all myself.
Well,
So-
and I think the district has had this kind of party, you know, that's what people think of when they think of the district is parties. And I think they're
all
gently
shifting.
trying to steer away from that. That was fun back in the 90s, but
and was it ever?
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Did I mention how John and I started dating at Rivco?
Yeah.
see, the thing is, like, so you said you moved here in the fall of 96. We were getting married fall of 96. You could have come to our wedding. We were down in the district all the time. We should have
know-
been friends.
Yes.
I tried to make it, but
Yeah.
You're like, John, what wedding can we crash this weekend?
Right?
Right? Right around the corner. Yeah.
No, but I think that
Our reception was right around the corner.
was
down
at the
there.
Fort
I don't know if you know that. It was
Armstrong.
at the Fort
Was it?
Armstrong.
yeah.
so our wedding was at St. Mary's,
Okay.
right downtown, and our reception dinner or rehearsal dinner was at Huckleberry's. And then after Huckleberry's, we went to Blue Cat and hung out upstairs with our friends that were
Yes.
back, you know, that were standing
Yeah.
up with us. And then our reception was a Black Hawk.
I love
I
that.
mean, it's very
So the
Rock
first-
Island.
The first year of our marriage, we lived in the Fort Armstrong. You know that
I think
story?
I did know that because you worked there,
With
Yeah.
all the
correct?
residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
That's
it
gotta
was
be
a
kinda
fun
fun,
gig.
though.
It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. But our rehearsal
You guys
dinner,
were such babies, though.
We
Oh
were.
my
We were
God.
so-
How old
such
were you?
babies.
18.
18.
I thought, because we're the same age, right?
I think so.
Real close.
Within a year. Well, what year did you graduate high school?
96.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I can't
So-
imagine.
So speaking of being on the new organization for Rock Island, and walk through your schedule of what you're doing at Skeleton Key for the summer, like events for people that
Tell us what's coming up.
You know, are local, love the Quad Cities, looking for things to do. You have a lot of things that you do throughout now that spring's ramping up.
do.
Walk through those events.
So our biggest one, really, that's kind of taken over everything for the summer, because I just don't have time to do a lot of extra things, is the artist market. And that's the second Sunday of every month from June through October. We're lucky enough, our property is one of the few that has its own parking lot as well, which was always a big selling point as well. And so we fill that up with different local artists and makers.
And you bring food in and music. It's just a really fun atmosphere.
Yeah, we have the same musician, Roger Carlson, who always wants to come back, and God bless him. He's just the best. He's the nicest man and does such a good job. And he always asks to come back. And I just love that so much that he wants to be there.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good time, and it's just a fun way to meet different, just new artists
And it's laid back. I mean,
Yeah.
there's traffic and people sell things, but it's not insanity.
Right.
You know, some shows are just a constant nuttiness. Ours isn't crazy like that. And the parking's not a huge problem because nothing else is really open on Sundays downtown. So we have all kinds of street parking. It's flat, easy to walk. Bring your strollers, bring your dogs. We don't care. The store's open, so we have actual bathrooms, not porta potties. I think that's a big selling point
is,
for
it is.
shows.
air conditioning. If you get
We have
too
air
hot.
conditioning if it gets too hot, for sure. But it's just such a fun group. The artists are so good at the way they interact with each other. They're so encouraging, and they shop each other's booths. I just love the way they are with each
And
other.
you have a lot of the same ones that like to come back.
They
so it's
do.
just kind of a fun, group. But then you get some new ones too.
We
right?
do. Yeah, we have new ones every year, and I do have some new ones signed up this year that we haven't seen before, and a lot of our ones that have been with us from the beginning. This started as a farmer's market, more of a traditional farmer's market, and over time, it was the artists that really took off. And then there was some public meetings that took place about what artists in Rock Island would like to see, and an ongoing market was something that came up over and over again. And so I was at a meeting and I got thrown under the bus a little bit and said, well, maybe Brandy at Skeleton Key would like to take that on. And we did. And it's been great.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. So
So
if
it-
someone wants to get involved and be a part of it, what's the best way to?
Go to our website,
Okay.
skeletonkeyqc.com.
Perfect.
And under the Rock Island Artist Market tab, there's a link at the bottom that takes you to, there's a little form that you just fill out. You pay, you select the dates that you want to participate and fill out the
So
form.
they don't even
submit
have
it.
to do all of them then if they can't.
No,
commit.
you can pick. There's a price break. We have 5. If you do all 5, you get a price break. But
So I have a crazy question for you.
good.
Like curveball. It's not really a curveball. So, okay, so you have this beautiful eclectic store, all kinds of different things. What is the craziest thing that ever came into your store that you thought this is never going to sell, but sold?
Oh,
Didn't we have somebody brought in a real chick, like a stuffed chick, didn't
Like
they?
taxidermied.
Yeah.
It's a taxidermied duck.
To our store, and that
Yeah.
was.
I feel like taxidermy stuff sells though.
Man,
We don't
it
get a
freaked
ton
us
of
out
it through,
because
but
it
it
was
does
a
sell.
baby. I think
Yeah.
that was sad.
Yeah, that's not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I know I'm on the
put
spot
you
and
on
I'm
the
having a
spot.
hard
I
time
know.
thinking.
I know.
There's been a lot of
30
things.
seconds.
And
No, I'm
it's
just kidding.
something I always have to remind myself too when I'm looking at dealers. I have to look at more how they put together a display when I'm deciding if I think they're a good fit and not always what they carry. Because I have to remind myself it's not what I like that sells always.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
sometimes it
And it's
is.
so true. Yeah. So
but
true. Yeah.
I don't speak for everyone. And it is oftentimes not the things I thought were going to be the hit that are the hit.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's always like that.
yeah, and I don't feel like we're off the curve that far. Like, so something that these people probably don't know is we have very similar taste, and
Yeah.
it comes up all the time. Like from the time that we met, when you guys came into that store that
Yes.
day, I think we figured out in that first conversation that we were both in love with the same paint color for our walls. Like, and
Yes.
it kind of goes that way. Our kids laugh about it all the time. It's not a surprise that our kids ended up being friends. So, and I just don't feel like we're that far off
Yeah.
the mark.
That's why you're here.
We like
Randy.
colorful
We love you.
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe
well, and
that's a
that
little
is
more-
something that's different about your store. You know, I feel like when we travel, like some of these stores, everything's white. Everything is, that farmhouse look. And what I do love about your store is that it is eclectic because there are so many different vendors in there. You can go in and really find a variety of styles. But yes, Brandy and I have the same sense of humor. Like I collect books that have
good.
weird titles that are, I think the ones I bought from you is like, "Don't Shoot My Dog." And I don't know, they just crack me up. And so I just have all sorts of weird titles.
Well, and we read the same book series. Like
Yes.
we randomly keep finding these things. So we're gonna have to go on vacation and go do that tour. And
Totally.
yeah, the
Well, we
Harry
always
Bosch
say
books.
we should really be doing a lot together, but we're both running businesses.
Who's got time? So we have to settle for texting. You won't believe what just happened.
Yes.
What's your crazy kid doing today? Is my kid with your
Yes,
kid?
yeah.
They're
totally.
together. Well, and we left out the part too that we did have a booth, and that's
They did.
So then,
Yeah. Did.
once Carter told us about this weird skeleton place, we went in and we
we
loved
had a
it, and we
booth
had a
there.
little booth, and we did
And our kids are friends.
furniture. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which is great. So, what about social media? Where can people find you on social
Oh,
media?
so we've got Facebook and Instagram, Skeleton Key Art and Antiques on Facebook, straight up Skeleton Key on Instagram. I have no idea how I got that lucky that I was
Yeah.
the first person
Yeah.
to claim Skeleton Key. I wasn't particularly early on the Instagram game, but I got
the
it.
first one,
That's awesome.
Apparently, yeah, worked out.
take it.
So good. Website one more time and hours.
SkeletonKeyQC.com. Wednesday through Friday, 12 to 5. Saturday, 10 to 5. Sunday, 12 to 4. Closed Monday, Tuesday, which is why I'm here with you today.
I love it. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for
So
having
good.
me. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode, everybody. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment.